Year 5 pupils. Thank you to Amelia and Harry. They've sent in their diary plans, both done it in different ways, which is always lovely to see. I like how Amelia has shown the sort of 3 visual stages of Tim Peake's journey, and she's added some notes from the interview along that journey there, which is really lovely to see. And I also like how Harry has recorded by typing things up, so it's nice and clear for him for the next step. And also I like the fact that he's picked some key information, but just put enough to remember what each thing's about, so his notes are nice and short. So well done, Amelia, and well done, Harry. We'll be adding some dojo points on for you both. Well done. Good morning, Year 5. Today we are aiming to just draft our first diary paragraph. So what that means is you're going to need your plan and your notes from Monday's lesson, an idea of the features, keep them in your mind, from yesterday, in order for us to be able to put our first paragraph together. So when we draft, we are turning our notes into complete sentences. It's not going to be the finished product. It's very much part of the writing process. So the aim of today is to have got an idea of how that first paragraph is going to work. We might not have all the features in yet. We might not have the most effective vocabulary yet. But what we do need to have is a paragraph that makes sense, that's got some of the things in from your plan, so that in a later lesson, when we start to enhance the paragraph, we can then start to add in some of the more technical features, look at our sentence construction, our language, how the paragraph flows. But for today, we're just turning our notes into complete sentences and aiming to have our first attempt at our paragraph put together. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I want to do when I'm drafting is I've got my notes from the other day, and I've got them by bullet point, sort of in the time order that Tim spoke. Now what I want to do first is kind of group some of these notes together, which will then become sentences. So I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, where he mentioned being nervous and feeling anxiety, and then it became exciting, I'm going to link that to the fact that he was experiencing the noise and the power. Then he mentioned the Formula 1 car. So I'm going to put these 2 notes together to make one sentence in my draft. Then he went on to say about the blackness of the Pacific and the moonlight glimmering. It's quite a lot, some lovely description there. So I'm going to have that as a sentence by itself. After that, he described the speed. He mentioned it was phenomenal, and nothing compared to it. It stopped violently within a second. So anything to do with the speed, I'm going to put together there. I've noticed as I'm writing this my spelling mistake out, and put the E, and then I'm going to carry on. Looking at after the speed, he spoke about all of a sudden it went quiet and it was eerie and things were floating and the sunlight flooded in. So lots of opportunity for a descriptive sentence there. And then that sort of final reflection that he had when he looked back and he saw the earth and described it as a magnificent blue-green jewel. I'm going to have that as a sentence on its own. So I've already worked out my paragraph is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences in. Okay, so I'm going to have a go at turning my notes now into my first draft, just making those first 5 sentences that we've talked about. Again, it's not going to be the best paragraph he's ever written. It's just the beginning of the writing process to make those notes into something that flows into a paragraph that goes together. So I'll have a go. You can pause the video and take over. You might have joined your notes differently to me. You might have different notes to me, but this is what I would like to see from you today. So the first part was when he talked about his anxiety. So let's have a go. And I must point out, as a left-hander, I might occasionally obscure the text, so please bear with me. I remember feelings of anxiety before launch, but excitement took over when the noise and power kicked in like a Formula One car. Now, just point out I've used the digit 1 because I believe that's what they use in the name of the sport. Normally when I'm writing the word 1, I would be using O-N-E, which is what I would expect from everybody. Now I'm just going to read that sentence back, check that it makes sense. I remember feelings of anxiety before launch, but excitement took over when the noise and power kicked in like a Formula One car. That makes sense. I'm already looking at ways I might improve it. I'm looking at the word but. Could I change the conjunction later on? Could I add some more description to the part about the Formula One car? Things that I can do when I start to improve the draft in a later lesson. Right, next part. After takeoff, I saw the blackness of the Pacific Ocean. And watch out with Pacific Ocean. It is a proper noun, so it is capital letters at the start, of the Pacific Ocean, and the moon light glimmering. Next sentence. Nothing compares. We're talking about the speed now. Nothing compares to and this is that word I caught myself out with earlier, phenomenal. Speed of the rocket until it stopped violently going from 4G to 0G and they're now using the letters for the word one in 1 second. Again, I might add some description later on to describe that moment and his reaction, his feelings. May have to use my imagination a little bit too. Then it went quiet. Then it went quiet and it felt eerie because everything was, past tense remember, was floating, because everything was floating and the sunlight flooded in. Final sentence, and I said I'd got 5. I looked back to see the earth looking like a magnificent green and blue jewel. Just move it up a little bit. There's that last word on the end, jewel. Okay, so that is my draft. Now, chili wise, and I'll put this on the screen in a moment as well. Chili 1, what I'd like you to try and do is create your draft using at least 3 of the notes from the text, trying to use the features that we mentioned yesterday, but let's focus in particular on first person and past tense, and I'll come on to that more when we improve the paragraph. Chili 2, I think you could be using maybe 3 or 4 of your notes, and again making sure that you are using the first person and it's in the past tense. And then chili 3, let's go through the full paragraph with as much of the information as we can include. So I've got 5 sentences, so I'd like at least 5 sentences from you. Again, having your first go at using the first person and past tense that we mentioned yesterday. But I will put that on a screen for us now.